Max.
Hello.
What are you doing?
I'm getting messages from Bruce Valanche and people. All these things are happening at once.
Well, tell them we got a show to do. So.
I know. I didn't realize
do you know who we have on the show today?
I know. The lovely Sharpe-Kramer.
Yeah, we have Karen Sharpe-Kramer, who's a Golden Globe actress, and we also and producer, and we also have Kat Kramer, who's Miss Golden Globes and a producer. So they're both
and a singer extraordinaire. I heard her sing.
Yeah.
Back when I had hair. When I had hair at the Cynic Grill, and I've never forgotten it. She must have been 18 years old.
18, wow.
Gorgeous.
Yeah, she sings beautifully, and we're going to hear a little bit of that today. So why don't we bring them on?
All right.
Hey, guys.
Hi.
Hi. Thank you for the compliment, Max.
We're so happy to be here. Thank you, Max.
Yeah, it's awesome to have you guys. We have some questions for you. So I just want to ask you guys to let people know. You guys are involved in the comedy festival. You guys are founding executive board members, and this is a fairly new festival. This is our second year, but we started with a bang. And I guess the first question out of the gate is, people will probably want to know, like, how did this come to be? What can you tell them about how you guys became involved in the festival?
Well, before she says anything, I'm also a judge, right? So I'm going to be judging some of the stand-up comedy routines, and but I'll let her go first.
Okay, well, how did we get involved? Well, we met you, Paul Cruz, fell in love with you, and when you mentioned you were going to be presenting the Palm Springs International Comedy Festival, I thought, what a great idea, and particularly this year, because it's been such a terrible year for so many of us, and most all of us actually, that a laugh is what we really need. So I was very proud of last year, and we're just so new at this festival, and I think it's just going to go through the roof. I remember when Stanley was honored at Tribeca, oh gosh, maybe 10 or 12 years ago, and it was only in its fourth or fifth year. And I did CNN to talk about Stanley's movie and about the festival at Tribeca. And I said, I predict it's going to go right through the roof. It's in its infancy right now, but I think it's going to be a very successful festival, which it has become. And I predict the same thing for this one, for yours. So we're proud to be associated with it.
Well, I have to say that, being a performer myself and loving comedy and really plugging into that in Palm Springs, there's so much talent there and so much opportunity for live performing. At least there was before the pandemic. And Paul really, has a sense. He's on the beat of what the city needs. And Palm Springs and Coachella Valley and Palm Desert and that whole area really needs a comedy festival. And I know it's Paul's desire to not only honor comics and comedy films and performers that are established, but also to discover the next great comedy voice in the world. So it's a global festival, it's international, it's not just local, but it brings a lot of attention to the desert, I think. And we got involved primarily because my father, Stanley Kramer, made the ultimate comedy that had everybody in it in 1963, way before my time, but still a classic film. It's a mad, 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 mad world. And a lot of that movie was filmed in Palm Springs and Palm Desert. So Paul, you came to us and you said, let's establish a Stanley Kramer Mad World Award for comedy ensemble feature film, because that was such a big, huge ensemble. So we have to look for a film that's coming out now or that's been out roughly within the year that's also an ensemble. So that's really how we got very involved with the festival as founding board members. And we're happy to be able to have that award. In 2018, it was Book Club. Mm-hmm. And now we have the Comeback Trail, which we're so excited about, which is more of a male male-oriented comedy, but still an ensemble.
Yeah, last year we had, like you said, Bill Holderman directed and Aaron Sims produced and wrote with Bill the book club, which was a big, huge comedy hit for Paramount. And what was so great about that movie was that it was women of a certain age, and you don't see that often. And I think Stanley Kramer was always doing something new and something different and very innovative. And I think, in particular with this film, The Book Club, it was again something you don't really see that point of view. It's not really one that's presented in film or in TV. And so it was genius of you guys to pick that film. And I remember you guys taking me to the premiere and watching it and how fantastic it was. And then it became this huge hit. But this year, like you said, we have your selection is George Gallo's The Comeback Trail. And that just looks so amazing. I mean, it's so funny and it's just got a lot going on. And Karen, I had a conversation with Karen last week, and she was saying how it has a lot of kind of like the physical comedy and kind of like the hijinks that Mad World had.
That was unbelievable in Mad World.
Yeah. And so when she said that, I was like, yeah, you're absolutely right. So I think you guys are always picking such great films, and this year is no different. And I think going back to what you said about how you guys came to the festival and what Mad World represents, I think it obviously is centered here around in Palm Springs, and it's an ensemble cast, and it had a lot of hijinks ensued in the film. And so this is a very fitting film for your guys' choice this year. So it's fantastic. So
that George Gallo, who wrote Midnight Run and he wrote and directed The Comeback Trail, happens to love my father, loves Stanley Kramer, and said that he watched Mad World several times before he even filmed The Comeback Trail, which I didn't know until after I already selected the film. And he said he studied the master shots and the slapstick and the car crashes and both movies are about greed and money. I mean, they may be different. They get to it in a different way. It's a different theme, but that's kind of like the underlying problem that the comedy comes off of. So it's really a perfect choice.
And the physical comedy in that movie is so unbelievable. It like set a whole new bar. Mm-hmm. But most of what Stanley was famous for, these really heavy, dramatic dramas, was such a departure from what he usually does.
Well, the reason that happened was he was having lunch in New York with Bosley Crowther. Bosley Crowther was the top critic for the New York Times, and he was very, very famous. He loved Stanley's work. He thought he was the most influential filmmaker of the 20th century. But we were having lunch and with him, and he said, Stanley, we critics get together and we like to talk about all you guys, And he said, you want to know what we think about you, what we say about you? And Stanley said, well, yeah. And he said, well, we think you are the great filmmaker that you are, but there's one thing we all agree on. You could never make a comedy. There was this long pause, and Stanley just looked at him for a second and said, oh, yeah? And that was the beginning of It's a Mad, 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 Mad World. He set out to make the comedy to end all comedies. Now, Mad World shot in Palm Springs mostly in August. Can you imagine? In August in Palm Springs. It was 5 hours film when it was finished. Stanley was also an editor. He was a writer, editor. He was an auteur, actually, producer, director. And so they edited it down to 4 hours. And then UA found trouble with that. They took it away from him, and he had to edit it back down to about 3.5 hours. But we opened with the 4 hour and with intermission. And he built the Cinerama Dome in Hollywood to open his Mad World. And it was quite a premiere. And you know something interesting about this film? Of all Stanley's 35 films, and there's some really good films he's made, this film has legs. Kat and I both have introduced this film so many times through the years, And even as of last year at the Cinerama Dome, we introduced the film again, and I said, "How many people are going to come? It's Rosh Hashanah." You know, it was jammed, and it's a huge house. We couldn't even find a seat. So for the 50th anniversary, we had someone, a designer, who made a purse for Catherine and me. Now this is a real these are real coconuts, and it's all these beautiful. I guess it's Sharpe-Kramer.
Well, we brought these to the first year of Palm Springs International Comedy Festival. You could see it in the red carpet footage. Yeah, they're coconuts and they're designed
just for Mad World, of course. Mine's a little different than Cat's. Mine has the palm trees on the back. And what do you
These
know
are the only two in the world.
Yes.
I think we did give it to some of the cast members through the years.
Yeah. The cast always turns out whenever I ask them. Of course, now they're mostly gone. They've all passed on now.
But these are rare collector's items.
But it's the one film that has stood the test of time. And that we still get audiences, young audiences, love that film. And I said, "May I ask you something? This film is made in 1963. How do you know about this film?" And they said, "Because it, you know, Easter, Thanksgiving, Christmas, my family always played this film because it's clean." I said, "I've never thought of it. There's not a swear word in it. There's no bathroom humor in it. And I think that's what keeps it a classic. Not necessary to revert to that kind of humor. I don't think it's necessary because it really was funny. The situation was funny." And so anyway, I just wanted to show these because I thought they did a great job with it. And it's coconut because of palm trees, you know. Anyway.
There's so many great things, though, that I have to give Paul kudos on, even though he's very modest. And that is, he knows that I advocate a lot for differently abled or people with disabilities, especially the deaf community, and also those that are visually impaired, because I played Helen Keller when I was like 11 years old. And so it influenced me to really advocate for anybody that has a disability. But I primarily work with the deaf. And so Paul has been very forward thinking and very much about being inclusive and about being diverse with the festival and having films that feature, I think the first year there was a deaf filmmaker. And then this year, Selena Luna is having a comedy show with all differently abled comics. And so I have ASL interpreters for that. And I have to say that Paul is so forward thinking and really, is leading the pack with film festivals or comedy festivals or any kind of festival where he's really focusing on giving talent a chance that, may not otherwise have it. So I have to give you major kudos for that, for embracing element into the festival.
Oh, thank you guys so much. Yeah, I mean, again, one of the reasons why I love you guys so much is because you guys and like Stanley have always been people who have advocated for people who were different, people who were of color, of minorities, who were differently abled, and all of those things. And I think that is just a bond that we just innately have. And so because of that, and we can't escape who we are. We are just naturally inclined to include people and be inclusive. And so we have a lot of differently abled people. We have comics, and we have a lot of differently abled filmmakers and LGBTQ. And we just try to be as inclusive as possible because we want to welcome everybody with open arms like we do here in Palm Springs. And I think, again, going back to the Sharpe-Kramer Award, there's no better award that kind of encompasses what we're all about than this award, because of what Stanley stood for and because of comedy and because of Palm Springs. It's just kind of like it says it all with that film. And you guys were saying how timeless it was. And I was even talking to Lunel, who's like a really big star right now. And she was telling me the other day, she was like, "Oh my God, I wish I could be there when you guys do the award, because that's one of my favorite films of all time. And so many celebrities love it." And wasn't it like #1 at the box office for like a year?
Oh my God.
Yeah. It was crazy.
Well, it's one of the very few films that Ethel Merman is in. Very few.
Yeah. Can you talk about that, Karen?
Yes. Well, there was a comprehensive showing the film and a box set that was done by, what was the name of it?
Criterion.
Criterion did a great job. And it's a comprehensive box set and I was a consultant on it. And it was #1 for almost 2 years on Amazon. So yes, the film had nominations for Academy Awards too. So it won a couple of them. Didn't do as well as I'd like it to do, but the test is the time, and the film is still very, very popular today.
It really is. I mean, it's we've actually been trying to do a reimagining or a sequel. There's been so many different ideas. People are so afraid to tackle anything because the original, they wouldn't dare try and do a remake, actually calling it that. People have tried to do copycat movies, but no one's ever come close to the original. But a sequel could work. And
I've written it, but I don't know whether I can get UA to go along with me or not. But I did write it, and I do think it would work. But that's another story.
Also, my dad, he used to have a house in Palm Springs. Mm-hmm. We, as Paul knows, we had a film festival that we started, which was called the Sharpe-Kramer International Film Festival, and we also. He got a posthumous star on the Palm Springs Walk of Stars in 2017. Unfortunately, Bob Alexander just passed away recently, actually on my father's birthday. And he championed that because my dad was the first person to get a completed star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. But we felt, and so did the city, and so did the mayor, and so did Robert Alexander, that he needed one in Palm Springs. And so, we've had a lot of memories about Palm Springs growing up, and
we had a house in Palm Springs. We would go down there quite often. I still want to move back. I keep thinking I'm going to move there, but every year what happens is we get busy with projects and we think we don't do it. But it's where we probably are going to end up. I mean, I think it's a great place to be. It's where I'd like to be right this minute. So the festival gives me a chance to dream a little bit, about that.
Yeah, I do miss it.
To do a sequel because 2020 is the world where everything went mad. We're all 2020. We're all mad.
Definitely. Let's take a look at this.
Jet lands in Los Angeles, launching the biggest entertainment airlift in motion picture history. The world's press, some 300 newsmen from 4 continents, arrive for the Hollywood premiere of Stanley Kramer's
There was a certain amount of money buried down in this pot. Now, I suggest that we quietly get into our cars, and then when we get down there, we dig up the money, providing that there is some money there.
There's only one way to figure it, and that is every man for himself.
And so begins the maddest, wildest, zaniest chase ever filmed, as our merrymakers race across country, by land, by sea, by air. For somewhere there's a fortune in buried treasure. Which one of our Mad World comedy stars will be the first to reach it?
Now, where have I always told you that the Smiler hid the dough?
Where? Right
there.
The world's critics go stark raving mad, mad, mad. The wildest chase comedy on record, raved the New York Journal-American.
Nobody's going to get me up in the air.
A smash. Has more laughs than any other comedy in the history of the screen, raved the Los Angeles Herald-Examiner.
Why can't you have a little confidence in me? It's a man.
It's a wonderful film.
Nobody's getting me up in the air. Not now. You should make it COVID. I won't get on a plane.
But no, this is a perfect film. And actually, he's done a lot for Palm Springs with just this one film. Right?
That's right. Well, I think it took him about 3 months to make it. As I said, it was in August. Can you imagine Palm Springs doing those chases? Those stunts, we didn't have the technology we have today. So those stunts were all real. those car chases and all the things that you see on the screen, that was all live done with some great, that not the stars didn't do that, the stunts, but the stuntmen did. And it was, nobody ever got hurt. So that's an amazing thing too, because it was dangerous, you know?
And there were so many comics and stars in that film. And then there was all the stories about the ones that didn't get it in the movie. There's a lot of stories about
Red Buttons
that.
is one of them. And Red came to me and he said, I invited him to the 50th anniversary, you know, at the Academy, which we did a lovely night that night. And I had Billy Crystal come and co-host with me. It's his favorite film, by the way. And I said, Red, I'd love you to come. And he said, oh, no, I can't. Because he said, you know, I'm still very upset. I'm not in that film. Stanley didn't cast me. And I said, well, that is true, but he didn't cast Bob Hope either, or Lucille Ball either. And I can go down the list of people he did not cast in the film. So I said, but there's no reason not to come. We'd love to have you anyway. So people were still holding a grudge, you know, that they didn't make it into the film. But anyway, you know, they did pretty well on their own without the film. They were pretty great.
I'll bet though, with that heat, if they've been stuck in that heat for 3 months, they might be happy about it. There's a joke where a guy says, a doctor says, you've got 2 weeks to live. He says, I hope they're not in August. It's hot. Paul keeps on telling me it's a dry heat. I said, yeah, like an oven.
Yeah. But anyways, it's just an amazing film, and that's how the Stanley Kramer Award came to be for the Palm Springs International Comedy Festival. But let's take a look. Actually, there's a cat with Karen. I mean, that's Karen with Stanley looking gorgeous as usual, and Kat's godmother, Katharine Hepburn, who she was named after. And look at, you're just so beautiful, Karen. I think we also have a clip from Karen in the Disorderly Orderly with Jerry Lewis that we're going to set up. And can you tell us a little bit about that before we go into the actual clip, Karen?
Yes. Well, Mr. Lewis, yes, that's true. But Mr. Lewis had asked me to be in a couple of films before this one. And I had a couple of meetings with him, and I said, well, look, I don't know how to play those kind of straight women, you know, to your comedy. Can I be funny? And he said, absolutely not. I said, I've got to be kind of like an ingenue. And I said, you know, I don't know how to play those roles. I really don't. So I'm going to beg off, but thank you for the opportunity. That happened a couple of times. And then unexpectedly, my father, who lived in Texas, I'm a Texas girl, but I went back, he passed away unexpectedly. And so I went back to settle the estate. And it was complicated, as the states are. And I was gone a year. I was out of the business for a whole year. So when I came back, it was tough to get a job. Because when you're gone, and then I was on a roll for a long time, but I couldn't get a job. And so he knew he had me. So he came back to me and he said, okay, you need this job, right? I said, that's right. And he said, well, I'm going to triple your salary. Edith Head is going to make all your clothes. I'm going to give you the most beautiful dressing room, because I'm never in it, because I'm always on the set anyway. And he said, and so that's what you're going to get. It was an offer I couldn't refuse. So I said, I'm grateful and I appreciate it. But he didn't like to rehearse, you know. He had a stand-in kind of work with me a little bit, and then he would come in and do it. And he always liked everything we did. Now, what Mr. Lewis did, which I thought was brilliant, he established the monitor system. In other words, you filmed on a monitor your scene. And then we'd run off and take a look at the monitor. And if we liked it, they'd print it. But it was always the first rehearsal, and he always printed it. But I was a person who did a lot of live television when it was live. So I could do that. It wasn't hard for me to do that. But I had a lot of time on the set with nothing to do sometimes. And so right across the street from our set was another set, and it was Ship of Fools was being filmed with Vivian Leigh and Oscar Werner and Simone Signoret and Lee Marvin and a whole cast. And the commissary, every day when I go for the lunch, I would see this huge table over in the corner with all these great people, and that director, you know, I couldn't think of what his name was at the time. And then I'd see Vivian Lee, and I'd practically drop food on my costume looking at Vivian Lee through the whole lunch, you know. So one day I got up enough courage just to walk onto that set. It was a closed set. And in all the years I was in this business, I worked for about 18 years in this business. I had never visited anybody's set, but this was Vivian Lee. I had to go there. So I went onto that set, and Stanley had that ship. I mean, that ship was mostly the whole ship was on that set. I'd never seen that before. Anyway, he didn't feel good about my being there because he yelled down to me and said, "Who are you?" And somebody came to my rescue and said, "That's Karen Sharpe." And he said, "Okay, you can stay." Well, I felt I'm intruding really, and Vivian Lee was just in rehearsal, so I thought, well, I got a chance to see her, so you're not going to stay. So I left, and that began Stanley's pursuit of me. It took him a year to get a date, and he kept calling me, and I kept saying, I'm always working. I don't go out when I'm working, and so I finally said, "Okay, Mr. Kramer, I can give you 2 hours on Monday." And I kept looking at my watch. And so, 8 o'clock, gotta go. It was a disaster. I mean, my first meeting with him at dinner was disastrous. So my manager called me and said, "How did it go with Mr. Kramer?" And I said, "Well, I got news for you. I'm never going to work for him. And I got news for you. None of your other clients are going to work with him either, because I was so rude that man will never hire me." And I said, "You know, I don't have dinner with these people. I see them over the desk for a job. I don't get socially involved." Well, I ended up in the hospital with an appendix, and it was in all the newspapers. And Stanley sent me flowers and, "Can I bring you dinner when you get home?" And so that began our courtship. And we were married about 8 months later, and I never looked back. It was great. I was married 35 years, and I really have to appreciate Jerry Lewis for giving me that opportunity, because that led me to my real future, and that was Stanley.
Yeah, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Jerry Lewis. So
that's right. He was a
and I
genius.
told him
Jerry was a genius at what he did. He made really clean family films, and he was very popular.
Ha! Ha 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 ha!
I'll do without it.
yes.
Oh, do you like the music that I selected? That was a favorite of my father's. He used to sing it to me when I was just a kid.
You loved your father, didn't you?
Love you can't help. But I also respected and admired my father. Respect and admiration you have to earn.
Who else have you ever loved?
Well, I loved his wife. She was like a mother to me. You know,
It's none of my business anymore. Besides, I can't be trusted.
What do you mean? I trust you.
Well, you shouldn't trust me. You shouldn't go around trusting people who eat other people's mail.
Is that the spaghetti sauce getting here?
Well, I did. The day that you took the note and the rose to that girl's room, I followed you. And when you left, I sneaked in and I read it. You said that you loved her. Oh, you're right. That spaghetti sauce sure has gotten to me.
Julie, wait a minute. Julie? Julie, wait a minute.
You know, I just decided. I think I'll go on a trip. Maybe I could... I'm sorry.
Julie, why did you read that note?
Because you knew her name was Susan. Because you knew who she was before anybody else did. Because You love her. Does she love you?
She doesn't even know I'm alive. And if you don't say anything, she never will.
Fantastic. You lend such heart to this film, and I know you wanted to do comedy, but it's such a great role in juxtaposition of the fact that it's a comedy, and in your character's involvement.
Well, it grounds the whole thing.
Yeah.
Well, it had a serious moment in it. That was the serious love part of it, and then of course it goes on to being more campy later on. But he does. I think he did extraordinarily good work. He was very popular, and people loved his films. And as I said, it was family. It was G-rated. But you got involved with the characters in all of his films. He chose well, I think.
And he was actually in Mad World.
And he yes, he was in Mad World. And we used to see him on Sunday night. We would go to Chasen's and have dinner, Stanley and my family, the family of ours family. And Jerry was always there on Sunday nights too. So he played poker on set of Mad World and lost a lot of money. Stanley always had a poker game going. On all of his films, and people would gamble. Stanley loved to gamble. He was a real gambler, but not with the money particularly. He gambled with movies, he gambled on people, and he loved to gamble, but he never gambled away any real money.
Well, let's take a look. Do we have a clip set up for of Kat's film Turnover or the Comeback Trail, Ryan? I know we have some things that we want to take a look at today.
You're lying. I swear to you, I'm not lying. I'm lying a little bit, but I'm a producer. That's what I do. And I have your money in full. I promise.
You got 72 hours. After that, I choke you to death.
Come on, I'm not an idiot. You haven't painted the most accurate portrait of our investor.
All right. We've been in trouble before. We always find a way out.
It's all over the street. You need money.
Why don't you guys come by the set?
Frank Pierce is going to be there. Excuse me, Mr. Pierce. I'm so sorry to bother you. Can I get your autograph?
Frank Pierce insured for $5 million.
This scumbag. He doesn't shoot a frame, a film, and he makes $5 million.
Well, how would you have felt if all you had to show for it was a lousy insurance check?
Look, I got a scam.
What do you mean a scam?
We make it look like we're actually going to be putting together a movie. We heavily insure a star who'll do his own stunts. That's Duke Montana?
Yeah, that's Duke Montana. What are you doing, Duke Montana?
Come on, baby, game Russian roulette.
You are perfect for this.
I'm really connected to the story.
Yeah, but Duke is like a Western, it's very massive. Congratulations.
Bang! We kill him in a stunt. He's dead. And then we're rich. We're rich. Duke Montana, if he were alive right now, I know he would be saying, "Where's that man Harper?" Duke, my God, you're alive.
It's not that hard to kill somebody.
We're shooting this fantastic roper scene. It's going to be a real killer.
If it wasn't for you, I'd be 6 foot under up on Boothville right now. I'm going to hunt you down.
These people are ready to die for you.
That's the best choice of words.
What kind of a human being are you?
Well, I'm a producer.
We don't have a better car.
I don't believe in ostentatious flamboyance.
What are you, stupid?
No.
Oh my God!
I can't wait for people to see this film. This is the best comedy trailer for a film since Book Club, and it looks like it's going to be a load of fun. And I'm just so excited that this is the choice that you guys picked this year.
It's amazing. It's got a little bit of Mel Brooks in it. Like it costs more money to make a hit than a flop.
A little bit like the producers. But I was also going to say that Robert De Niro has another comedy coming out this week or around the time of the festival called The War with Grandpa, which is also a very slapstick ensemble kind of comedy. So I was thinking like we could tie the two of them, but no, the Comeback Trail is the kind of movie my dad would have made.
It's an inside look at the business too. You know, I'm a producer. I love that's a great excuse. I don't lie. I mean, I'm not lying. I might lie a little bit because I'm a producer. You know, some really wonderful things in this movie. And the stunts, I think he said he looked at Mad World a lot of times before he shot the stunts. So anyway.
He's very, very happy to be getting the award.
He's thrilled
too,
to death. Yes.
But so was Bill and Aaron. You know, it's great to have an award that focuses on comedy and ensembles because so often they're overlooked in the Academy or with other award shows. They don't always get the recognition.
That's
so
right.
it's just so important that your festival focuses on movies that are comedies and all different, like you were saying, all different styles.
Yeah, well, first of all, it's our festival, all of us, and I couldn't do it without you guys. You guys are such a tremendous help, and Stanley's award is so important to me and to this film festival and what we stand for. And it's so obvious in this trailer that it has influences of Stanley's film Mad World. You could see it; it's all over the place, and I am so excited. And could it possibly be that this is De Niro's funniest comedic performance ever?
He's done some wonderful.
He's been so funny, and I was lucky to be in Little Fockers. You know, that whole Fockers, Meet the Parents, Meet the Fockers, Little Fockers, and then he did Analyze This.
I love
and
Analyze This
That,
and Analyze This and I love those two movies.
And Midnight Run was actually a different kind of, maybe a little bit more subtle, but that was also very funny.
He's had a phenomenal career. Just phenomenal.
Definitely a role model as an actor.
Oh my, yes he is.
And a director too. Never directed a comedy though. We'd have to consider that.
Still time.
Yeah.
But getting back to, I think it's a tremendous film. I can't wait for people to see it. And George looks like George directed an amazing, hilarious film. Which I'm very picky about comedy. So for me to like get
I laugh at stuff. He's like, I don't think it's funny. It's funny. I don't think it's funny.
Yeah, he knows how picky I am. So when I saw this, I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And this is how I felt about book club when you guys brought book club to me, and I was like, wow, this is amazing. I mean I remember just laughing out loud continuously. But getting back to Kat's done quite a bit of comedy and singing. And do we have that clip ready, Ryan, about with Kat and her film Turnover? I'd like to see if we can get that set up. How did this, when you just completed this film last year, you won an award. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Kat?
She's muted. There we go.
It's a very independent film. It was made on a shoestring budget. And I read the script, and before even reading the script, though, I already wanted to do it because I'm very much, as you know, I advocate for any kind of inclusion. And it was primarily a female crew. It was a woman writer, director, and also her co-writer was female. And, like everybody in the crew, except for maybe one male, it was all female empowerment. So I said, I'm already interested. And she offered me the role of Fran, which is kind of the woman you love to hate. But I wanted to imbue her with some kind of redeeming quality. So I really worked to, build her character so she wasn't just the villainess. And then they asked me to become a co-producer on it. And I also cast a lot of the actors, like the Daniel Hoffman, who played my son, Sean. I said, I have to be able to read with the actors playing my son and get a sense. And he looks so much like he would be my son. And also Paul Guilfoyle, who was the lead, who plays Peter. I play his ex-wife. And then I cast Beverly Todd in the film because she is such a great actress, and we wanted her to play one of the blue-haired ladies. And also Donna Mills is in it. Jamie Brewer from American Horror Story. It's a very eclectic, diverse cast. Carlos Carrasco, who's amazing. Yeah. And so it was filmed on location in Long Beach and Canoga Park at the studio there, but it was really done very, very independent. It's also a foodie film. It's about the restaurant business. So you have that aspect. And it was released in theaters for a brief time before going to Amazon Prime and other platforms. But I was very lucky to win for Best Supporting Actress at the Love International Film Festival, which is a local festival, but again, it's all very internationally focused. And I did beat out a lot of actresses that were from all over the world. And it was, you know, a very, very competitive category. So I was really happy. The film itself has won tons of awards at festivals. We pretty much won, you know, at every festival that we went to, including Manhattan Comedy Festival, Golden State, Gina Davis's festival. I mean, a lot of them in back east. So the movie has gotten a lot of support. It's really a little engine that could film. And then, you know, before that, though, a project I'm very proud of that's very, very big in Palm Springs, especially, is the web series Child of the 70s, where I was able to create all these characters. From the main character, which is Francis Rye, I was able to create male characters and, you know, all kinds of crazy characters. You really have to see the show. But we played it in Palm Springs too a couple of years ago, and it just has such a big following.
Henry, instead of your own flesh and blood.
Legacy, flesh and blood. Come on. You know, I mean, this whole thing is contingent on whether I close a deal with the investors anyway. So it's...
I want it in writing. Sean will open the first franchise. You can put it in Sean's name.
Well, actually, I offered it to Henry.
Okay, well, he can open it. He'll just work for our son.
Well, man, I offered it to an adult, Henry.
I'll offer it.
Oh,
Henry. For the love of God. Oh, no, it's obvious to everybody but you.
What do you mean?
You're not going to be around forever.
Oh, my God.
In fact, I'm gonna make sure it's put in the paper.
What paper? The newspaper?
If you choose Henry over your own son, I'll make sure Sean never forgives you.
Sorry, no, sorry. Oh, hi.
Don't I get to congratulate you?
Wait, thanks, thank you. Oh, and congratulations to you too. You did a great job. All this time, I'm so sorry. I don't know your name.
I am your worst nightmare.
Holy shit, not again! Oh, no!
You think you're hot shit just because you're starring in a Broadway show?
You know what, Francis? Yeah, I do think I'm hot shit for starring in a Broadway show. What the hell is wrong with you? Why are you doing this? And why me?
Because they canceled my TV show. Because I was publicly humiliated. Because they made me play your mother. And now I can't even get a job. They think I'm old. I'm only 26. I'm too young to play your mother. Okay. Anybody else have anything snarky they want to add?
You played so many characters in that, and you were the best thing about that series. Like when you came on to that show, like it improved like tenfold. I have to say, and you're such a diverse actor, and it's great to see like the stuff that the stuff that you did in Turnover compared to this. What I liked about Turnover is that you were. Can I say that you were such a bitch in that role? But then what I loved about that role is like it had such a beautiful arc. Like at the end of the movie, you can see that this person, your character or friend, was such a good person at heart, and you see that at the end, and that's a wonderful, well-written role to play, and it's such a heartwarming film, and it's nice to see that arc that you did, and then for you to play these characters in the clip that we just saw, it's so great. You're so diverse, and I mean, what were your influences growing up? Like, obviously, your mom and your dad are huge influences, but can you talk about some of your other influences in your life as an actress and wanting to do what you do?
I've had so many idols and influences like Shirley MacLaine, Barbra Streisand, Bette Midler. I think Lily Tomlin is my ultimate performing idol. I actually had a little secret when I was filming the turnover that I'll never reveal, but I made up a backstory for the character. And there's a photo with Lily, Tippi Hedren, and Cher. Lily's actually the ambassador for my screening series, Sharpe-Kramer's Films That Changed the World. And we advocate for elephants together and animals. And she's been very involved with a lot of the issue films that I've presented. She even narrated one about bullying called Teach Your Children Well. And that also was played in Palm Springs as well. So, and she has a very big history with Palm Springs. But she's a big influence now on my solo show. And I did a musical salute to her a few years ago, which has become a very popular kind of viral video where I did a musical parody and salute to her career. And she was involved with Bless the Beast and Children too. She told me it was a good idea to remake that for my father's film. And it's the anthem for Performing Animal Welfare Society and a lot of animal rights and welfare groups.
Yeah, I went to you and Mom invited me. I keep on. I'm sorry. When I say Mom, I mean Karen. You guys invited me to a pause event, which I love animals. I have 5 rescues, and I had a cat that recently passed. But we all love animals, and you invited me to an event where you sang. You recreated this on stage setup that you did, which was a lot more elaborate in the original, and we have a clip of that. I hope we can set it up and share that. But you have an amazing voice. I had never heard you sing live before, and so I was like blown away. But it's an amazing piece, and you did it with Le Petit Cirque, and I know you guys do a lot with animals and all of that. And your film series, Sharpe-Kramer's Films That Changed the World. Obviously, you have a lot of influence from your family, your mom and your dad, and that shows in this particular film series that you do. Can you talk a little bit about that before we show a clip of you singing?
Yeah, the film series it's almost like my father's been guiding it, because we had the Stanley Kramer Theater at Sunset Gower Studios, which was formerly Columbia, where he made a lot of his films, including Guess Who's Coming to Dinner. And I wanted to start programming films in there that had social issues. And the very first movie I presented, though, was Yentl, because it was the 25th anniversary of Barbara's film, where she was the first woman to write, direct, star, do the music, even with the screenplay. And that movie was important to my father and me. We used to watch it, and it has a really strong father-daughter theme to it. So I was lucky that she gave me the director's cut. I did it during Women's History Month at Sunset Gower in my dad's screening room, which at that time only seated like 91 people. So we had like a very small group, and it was like a salon. But instead of just making it the issue about women in film, I wanted to tap into more what Yentl herself struggled with, the character. So I knew that like organizations like the Enough Project and Women of the Congo, that made a case for the fact that women in those countries, and in the Congo particularly, are raped and even murdered, and they're considered outcasts just because they're women. And Yentl in Poland in the early 1900s, she had to disguise herself as a male just to be able to study. But it shows that we really haven't come that far in different parts of the world. So we even flew in women from the Congo to speak. And I knew I had something very special. And then the next film I did was The Cove, which ended up winning the Academy Award for Best Documentary Feature. And that was an animal rights, that slaughtering of the dolphins, not unlike my father's Bless the Beast and Children, about animal cruelty. And that film really, when we did the screening, all the filmmakers flew in from all over, whatever film shoots they were on, they flew in, and they were up for an Oscar that like the following week, but the ballots were still, they were still voting on the for the Oscars. So I had all these Academy voters there, and I got like a 5-year-old activist to say, because a lot of adults were afraid to, and voters were afraid to watch The Cove because it has like 5 minutes of dolphin slaughter. Just 5 minutes, but it's very tough to watch. And the activist, the 5-year-old kid, said, this movie's so important, and I've watched it so many times, and it's made me an activist at the age of 5. If I can watch it, the adult should be able to watch it. So not only did the film win the Oscar and had a lot of controversy around it at the time, but the filmmakers went to the Hump restaurant in Santa Monica and shut the restaurant down for serving whale meat. Right after the screening, that was used as a beard for them to go shut the Hump down. So then Lily got very interested in this series and decided to, she's an advocate for elephants in captivity and how elephants are so cruelly treated in zoos and circuses. And so I wanted her to host my next event, which would be the 3rd installment in Kat Kramer's Films That Changed the World, a film called Elephants and Man, A Litany of Tragedy. And she got Cher to come and also host, and I got Tippi Hedren, and it was just, Billy Bob Thornton. I introduced him to the whole idea of the elephants are, in captivity and they don't belong in zoos and circuses. And that started really the whole trend of me basically screening documentaries. I've done a couple narrative films, but they've mostly been documentaries. And Lily has hosted most of them, and like I mentioned, been involved with, primarily a lot of the films that she either was behind it or she narrated one of them. So we're in the 10th anniversary now, and it's really taken on a life of its own. This is Bless the Beasts and Children.
And children, for in this world they have no voice, they have no choice. Bless the beasts and the children, for the world can never be the world they see. Light their way when the darkness surrounds them. Give them love, let it shine all around them. Bless the beasts and the children, give them shelter from the storm. Keep them safe, keep them warm. Light their way when the darkness surrounds them. Give them love, give them love. Nothing's gonna harm you, not while I'm around.
What I did was that original song, and I added "Nothing's Gonna Harm You" from Sweeney Todd. So there's a little Sondheim in there. So that's not the pure Bless the Beasts and Children. And Lainey Kazan helped me with that recording. Her granddaughter Bella, who's also a singer now, sang because she used to be with Le Petit Cirque. So they sang on the tracks in the bed. They were my background choir basically, and also she helped stage that performance. So Lainey's also like a mentor and someone I look up to a lot. And, I've studied with her too, music and acting. So it was great to have that influence.
Yeah, no, it's a beautifully staged production, and it came out wonderful. Yeah,
gorgeous.
yeah,
Oh,
it
my
looks like a Vegas show. It's fantastic. But yeah, I wanted to go back to Mom for a second, Karen for a second, because you people. I mean, I don't know if a lot of people realize that you were in one of the most iconic television comedies of all time, I Dream of Jeannie, and you played Larry Hagman's fiance, Melissa, right? And it's amazing. Like your career, you've done so many things, and I think we have a clip that we can show. But can you just tell me a little bit about what that was like? I mean, that's probably one of the most iconic television shows in history. What was your experience with that, and how did you come to that?
Well, I'd known Barbara for many, many years. We're contemporaries. And then my necklace just fell off. Must be the truth. Gene Nelson, who was really a dancer actor, and he came to me and he said, "Look, I've got an opportunity to direct my first series." And he said, I would just love you to come on board and play, Larry Hagman, who I didn't even know who that was really at the time, a fiance. And I said, I said, as a second leading lady? And he said, well, yes. I said, well, no, I don't do that. I said, I always play the lead or I don't do it. But I said, I tell you what I will do. I will do the pilot. And if that can help you, I'd be happy to do that. So we didn't know if the show was going to be a success or not, but I just didn't want to, I'd come too far to be a second leading lady on a television series. So I did the pilot and had a wonderful time. That pilot became very successful. So then they wanted me to be back the next time and continue. And so I had a meeting with Sidney Sheldon, who was the writer, producer. And I said, no, write me out. So he wrote the second show, and I was very happy with what he did, and so I could bow out. And then I think I went in to do the Early Orderly right after that. So, but I think I've got a lot of comments about that show and my performance on it. But Larry was just a dream to work with. He really was a lovely, lovely actor and lovely man. I liked him a lot.
Thanks for driving me home. I'll see them.
I have a wonderful idea. Why don't you lure me inside so we can snuggle up in front of a roaring fire with a couple of hot toddies and talk about our honeymoon?
I wish I could, Liz, but we better not. I'm a terribly messy housekeeper.
I'll clean it up for you.
Yeah.
Tony!
Huh?
You read my mind.
Oh, what?
You even lit a fire.
I did? Oh, yeah, I did.
Who's? Seems so nervous.
Do I? Premarital jitters, occupational hazard for us bachelors.
Why wait? Why won't we simply move up the wedding date?
Well, yeah, that's a marvelous idea.
Oh, Tony.
Wait till I get you in Jamaica.
I guess I'll have to.
It won't be too long.
Tony, may I ask you something? What are we whispering about?
It's just something you don't discuss in public.
The walls have ears? You look a little tired. I think you better get some rest. I'll go.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
And even though your role was brief on that show, it's such a pivotal role because it's what actually is the catalyst that drives the story.
I remember it.
Between the two of them, you know?
Yes, well, that's what I've been told. So I'm glad I was associated with it, even though it was just two, and I'm still glad I didn't become a regular on the show. It didn't look right. My opinion was it looked like Barbara was an intruder to our love story, quite frankly. And I don't think that would have worked for the show at all. So I was glad I'd made that decision.
Well, I also have to say one thing though, that's back to the festival. I know we were talking about that, but so many great people are going to be honored. And I was just, while watching that show, I thought about what a, pioneer kind of show it was. And you have a real pioneer that's getting the Pioneer Award, Randy Rainbow.
My favorite. Oh, I've
Yeah.
discovered this. I'm
It was
absolutely
actually my sister
mad for him.
Jennifer that
Yes, she did.
that I heard of him, but she's the one that got like really into the videos and posting them and showing it
Well,
to
Paul,
us.
you know Jen, and Jen is my youngest daughter, and she's a filmmaker, great actress, concert pianist. There's nothing she doesn't do either. She's also extremely gifted. And she introduced me to Randy Rainbow. I mean, I wasn't aware of him, but she was. And so I fell in love with him, and so did Kat. And so we watch him all the time. So I'm so pleased you're giving him this award. He so deserves it. And I think a lot of people are discovering him during the pandemic.
Yeah, he really, was always popular, but during the pandemic is when people started mentioning and sending his videos around, and it just seems like perfect timing.
So thank you for that. And Jennifer, by the way, just made her first film. She wrote it, produced it, directed it, and stars in it, and plays the piano in it. So we're about finished with that. So we're gonna, we'll see where that
But
takes us.
it's not a comedy. It's
No,
like
it's not a comedy, but it's very,
very
unique.
dramatic
She's
indeed.
very, very gifted too.
Yeah.
Both
No,
of
I
them
can't.
are
I
gifted.
can't wait to see that, and I know of Jennifer's work, and I can't wait to see that film because it looks so beautiful and so artistic and very innovative. But getting back to what you were saying about Randy, actually, Max knows Randy.
I knew Randy back when he was doing theater.
Yeah.
Back in New York before he hadn't even done videos yet. He was the sweetest guy in the whole world, great singer.
Yeah, but it was actually Kat was like, "Hey, what about Randy Rainbow?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, that's a great idea."
Well, I think it was
It was Jennifer who said,
and then
Jennifer said, please get Randy Rainbow. And I said, great idea. And she said, great idea. I said, well, maybe we can make that work. But anyway,
Yeah, it was kind of
he's so
a
cute.
good decision.
Oh, he's brilliant when he puts these things
He's
together.
brilliant.
He's just brilliant. He really is.
The best at what he does.
Yeah. And he's a great choice. And just like Randy, we have another trailblazer in comedy, Bianca Del Rio, who, again, going back to the inclusion of our festival in comedy, it's very cool to see just a wide array of comedic talent in the festival this year. And Bianca is known for her amazing comedy that she does as a drag performer, and she sells out some of the biggest venues around the world.
Oh, she's hysterical and so quick.
Yeah.
I mean, she just comes up with stuff off the top of her head. It's unbelievable. I was at a party with her once, and it was just like,
yeah, she's amazing. And so
she called me Baldy.
and so to have Randy and Bianca and Lunel, and Selene, who's Latina and differently abled as well, and just like Judy Tenuta. I mean, who's
a new kid, Ryan Kelly, who like exploded out of nowhere. He was doing open mics, and started a TikTok account last year of October, and in 1 year has gone to like 2.5 million followers. It's like insane.
So we're all about celebrating, new people and new ideas and new approaches to comedy and innovative approaches to comedy, as well as, inclusion. And I think this year represents that so well, especially with with George Gallo's film and what you guys are doing. It stars Morgan Freeman and Robert De Niro, and Eddie Griffin and Zach Braff and Emil Hirsch and Tommy Lee Jones. So it's a wide array of color and ethnicities in this festival, and different types of communities are involved, and we just couldn't be more thrilled. So what are you excited for besides Randy Rainbow this year, you guys?
Well, I have to say that when you mentioned Judy Tenuta, I actually had her. When I first really got to know her, she was on the host committee for one of my Kat Kramer's films that changed the world. That Lily narrated that film, Teach Your Children Well. And then I was involved with the LA Comedy Awards. I actually won Entertainer of the Year, and they asked me to present Judy. She was getting like I think Lifetime Achievement Award or something similar at the Comedy Store. So I presented that to her. And then when I was cast in Child of the 70s for the third season. Michael Vaccaro, who created the show and stars in it, and it's his baby. He said, "Wouldn't Judy Tenuta be a great guest star? And you know her, and do you think you could bring her on board?" And so I reached out to her, and she became part of the cast, as did Ted Lynch from The Love Boat. So I have to say I contribute those two to Child of the 70s. So she's been very much a part of, a lot of the things with Child of the 70s, a lot of the premieres and reunions, and we both advocate for preserving like the legacy of film at the Hollywood Entertainment Museum. So yeah, it's great that she's being honored, and I know there's more people coming on board, that it's already such a robust festival now, and it hasn't even started yet.
And Mom, what do you
think about what?
excited for this? What are you excited for this year?
Oh, well, I'm just looking forward to the success of what you've accomplished. You've accomplished an amazing feat. It's not easy to do.
I'm looking forward to, I have to interrupt for a minute, because this movie Kaufmania, which Paul's really high on too, that Kevin Michaels is someone I know, and he made the film. It's a mockumentary. It was Fred Willard's, like one of his, or if it's not his final appearance. So Kevin invited me to moderate the world premiere back in January of this year, and he mentioned to me about, Palm Springs International Comedy Festival. So now it's in the festival, and there's going to be a special Q&A that I don't want to give too much away, but I'm sure there'll be some surprises, and it's going to be screening on the 17th. So I'm really excited to see how that plays.
No.
And all the movies that you have.
Yes, that's right.
And all the stand-up competitions.
It's amazing feats to have accomplished, really. So I'm excited about the whole thing.
Yeah. Well, we did it all together. We did it all together, and I have to thank Max for helping out so much. He's done so much. You guys have done so much. We have a great festival, about 200 streaming films from all over the world, from feature films to comedies to that great Andy Kaufman documentary, and a great documentary on Al Lubell with Sarah Silverman and Judd Apatow, and some great other feature films like The Bowman with Willie Garson, and a slew of other major celebrities. And then we have over 180 comics performing.
Amazing.
Yeah, and we have...
They're all very different, very special.
Yeah, we have about 75 celebrities in total participating in either the films or as judges or as comics or as honorees. I mean, it's amazing we were able to put all this together in 8 weeks, because we didn't know with the pandemic what was going to happen. We were scheduled, as you know, as founding board executive members to do this in May. Then we pushed it to September, and then we were going to cancel on. We decided, we have films from 19 countries, it says down below. That's amazing, right? I mean, it's amazing. So we were going to cancel it, but then, Max was like, oh, we should try to go for it online.
Go online.
Yeah. And so with Max's help and with your guys' help, we're able to give we'll give the world a lot to, smile about and, bring some joy. And I really, truly believe that, laughter is healing, and comedy has helped me get through so many hard times in my life. So I'm really passionate about comedy, as you are, and Max is, and I'm just really looking forward to this festival.
And what's really amazing about Fading Online is we have input from all these amazing people that couldn't all necessarily fly to Palm Springs to perform live. So we have performers from all over the world zooming in, doing comedy, and amazing industry panels. So if you're in the industry and you're trying to learn, or like the comics, we've got a writers panel. We've got the showrunners from The Nanny. We've got a writer who worked on Roseanne, who worked on The Golden Girls. Bruce Valant, who writes for all the award shows. So all these different kinds of people, and you can actually talk to them and ask questions. You're a comedian, you're a writer, you're a content creator. Like, how does that work? How did you get started? And there's great stories.
Yeah, we got some amazing executives from NBC and Fox and ABC and Warner Brothers, and we've got Nyla Durrani, who is a casting producer for America's Got Talent. And we just have so much.
Club bookers from clubs, all comedy bookers from Atlanta, from New York, from all over the country.
Vegas.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
Do you like the virtual way of doing things? I've discovered it and really love it. It beats getting in the car and having to go someplace, you know. I like it because I can reach so many more people virtually than I can if I was just going to find them in a different place, you know, like coming to Palm Springs and having to house everybody. This way, it makes life a little simpler. I kind of enjoy it, actually. And although I like things to get back to normal, but I still think this is a medium we shouldn't just throw away because we go back to our normal life. I think this is an important technology discovery for all of us in show business.
It's true, because you can have people that normally wouldn't be able to fly to Palm Springs or any other place, and there's no excuse for them
That's
not
right.
to pop in, you know, to the virtual world and join us.
That's right.
It makes it very, you know, limitless with the possibilities.
I don't know if you guys know this, but the first year we were actually going to do virtual streaming from the festival, but you know, that year my dad passed and my grandmother passed, and there was so many things going on in the making of that festival. It was a really crazy time, but I couldn't get it together in time. But we were actually going to be dual live and virtually streaming the festival through Facebook Live platform. We just couldn't make it happen. So ironically, here we are today, and we're fully virtual. And I just can't wait for everybody to join us, because it looks like, you know, it's going to be an amazing week long as opposed to 2 or 3 days festival of so
every
many.
day, full scale. It's almost like our own TV station.
Yeah, it's like our own TV network. Every day there's programming.
Well, before we go, I always like to ask everyone to tell their favorite joke, because we are a comedy festival. Do you have a favorite joke, an old joke?
Okay, I don't have a joke, but I have a story. It's about Mad World. Jonathan Winters, it was his very first film, and Jonathan Winters was not well known at all. He had done a couple of Jack Parr shows. Jack Parr, you know, remember him, the Night Show, Tonight Show? And Stanley was a great discoverer of talent. So he called up Mr. Winters, and he said, "Mr. Winters, I'm Stanley Kramer. I'm making this movie with Spencer Tracy and Milton Berle and all that kind." And he said, "I'd like you to be part of that cast." And he said, "Mr. Kramer, first of all, I'm not an actor. Nobody knows who I am." And he said, and he said, I just can't. He said, "You know, and I'm going to be very honest with you. I just got out of the insane asylum, and they say I'm certifiably insane." And Stanley said, "Mr. Winters, every actor I've ever worked with is certifiably insane. I think you'll do just fine." And of course, that was the beginning of Jonathan's career. And he went on from there to do some really wonderful things too, and became one of our dearest and closest friends. So I just have to tell that story because I just think that's such a marvelous story, because actors are a little bit mad, you know, or we wouldn't do it.
I don't really have a favorite joke, but I will quote like one of Lily's quips from one of her CBS specials, and I'll try and channel my godmother, okay, if I can do this. 98% of all the adults are hardworking, decent, honest Americans. It's the lousy 2% that get all the publicity. But then again, we elected them. As good as I can do. This
Well, that couldn't be more fitting to this year situation that we're in, and you guys have brought so much joy and laughter to this whole interview, and I love you guys so much. I mean, we couldn't do this festival without you, and without the importance of Stanley's and award and all that it represents for the festival as a whole. And Max, you've done so much as well. So this is one of our last shows before we go into the actual festival on Sunday, October 11th. We've got a great lineup, you guys. We hope you all tune in.
October 11th is free. There's no reason not to show up. A whole day of comedy, free.
On October 11th, yes. And
then if you want more, then you gotta pay.
And partial proceeds go to helping a variety of pandemic relief charities. So please, everybody, if you could just like, log on, make a donation or buy a ticket and like help us raise money, that would be great. We all need a lot of laughs. We all need to remember to wear a mask. We all need to remember to help one another during this difficult time. And I think laughter is again, a very healing thing. And I think everybody can use a little bit of that. And we have a lot of it to give, so.
Great merch. You have so much great merchandise. Oh my God. It's amazing. I'm signing off.
Bye,
Love you guys.
Thank you.
Bye bye. Bye bye.
Bye.